Yo, what's going on, everybody? AA Ryan here, and welcome back to PanNerdia, and welcome back to another Better Call Saul Season 5 breakdown. Tonight, we're breaking down Episode 9 of Season 5, titled Bad Choice Road. And, yeah, we're definitely seeing the repercussions of Jimmy going down Saul's road, and what it has to mean for the future of not only him and Kim, but Lalo and Nacho, and the rest of the Heisenverse. So let's go ahead and get right into it, shall we? With a nice split screen of Jimmy and Kim at the start of their day, even with the same song. I think this was a couple seasons back, and this time though it's Jimmy / Saul in the desert drinking his own piss, and Kim anxiously waiting in the apartment for any good news. And well, when Saul finally gets the service out in the middle of the desert, even after drinking another big gulp of piss, he finally gets that service and calls Kim and lets her know that he's A-okay. And this is a really good scene, man. And in general in this episode, Reese Ehorn, who plays Kim Wexler, wow, you deserve every award, because this is wild, man. Like, her acting is top tier, and I really felt it, especially when she started crying when Jimmy finally called. We then get Mike and Saul at a truck stop. They got some fresh threads, courtesy of the convenience store, and very similar to when Jesse and Walt came back, you know, from that 4 Days Out episode. Actually, no, I don't even think it was in the 4 Day Out episode. It was from when they ran from Tuco, right? It's when they ran from Tuco. That's when they ended up getting the new threads. He had like a Kenny Rogers shirt on, remember that? Anyway, they have fresh threads, and they're sitting there waiting for Victor and the other guy to come pick them up, and essentially get their story together, because they can't be saying that they got ambushed out in the desert. Not only for, Kim, but especially for Lalo and what he's going to be wanting to know. With the adventure Saul had in the desert. We then get Saul dropping off the $7 million. Yup. And they have to count every last dollar. Even the defense is like, who's your client? Like, really? I mean, how does he have this much in cash? And where did you get it from? Why are you looking so rough? So many questions, right? And Saul essentially just responds to, well, it's Jorge de Guzman, and how he gets his money is none of my business. So it's already putting up some red flags, the fact that he's able to get a bailout for $7 million in cash. I mean, come on now. That's pretty crazy there, right? Now Saul is a friend of the cartel in Lalo's eyes. Though Lalo did want to know what kind of happened, Saul gave him the story about losing the car out in the desert as it went kaput, and having to walk, which partially is true, but never mentioned the gunfight. Lalo's a little suspicious, put it that way. Boop. But as Jimmy finally gets home, of course, Kim's extremely happy to see him. He told her the same story, but man, is it rough. I mean, he's burned. He's got the strap marks from the bags. He's pretty roasted, and kind of having some PTSD. I mean, even when Kim's trying to make some orange juice later on, every little noise and bang really just rattles him again and puts him back to that trauma. I mean, he was in the middle of a gunfight, just a sitting duck. But all in all, Jimmy brings up the fact that Lalo mentioned Kim had came to see him, and he gets Kim to say, yeah, well, I did, I was worried about you. And he's essentially like, no, you can't see Lalo, do not see Lalo at all. He sees me, you stay out of it, you're not in the game, all right? Essentially saying he's worried about her. But it flips back around immediately again, because he's like, now look, it was all worth it, go check in that bag in there, alluding to the $100,000 that he's got. Well, she goes to look, and as she digs in the bag, She also sees the coffee mug that's got a bullet hole through it. Great shots too, by the way, with her looking through and you can see her eyeball. Brilliant. Really love these shots and angles that they put in the Heisenverse. It just sets that piece of art just that much higher. You know what I'm saying? So we get Mike and the debriefing with Gus, letting him know what exactly happened. Wondering, like, you know, these guys must have been working for the Salamancas, but were an inside man, or somebody else set it up. But somebody's had it out for them, right? Whether it was for their own benefit or not. Turns out it was that other Don, not Don Eladio, but the other guy. His name always eludes me. Kind of the middleman, you know. He's the one who essentially set it up. Gus even calls him, and you know, not only the guy doesn't necessarily admit it, but Gus is able to pick up on it immediately. Either way, they figure out what they're going to do going forward, and then Mike essentially is like, all right, we got to, you know, put it out here. Nacho wants out of the game. Nacho Varga. There's no use in needing him anymore if we have Nacho finally going, Lalo finally going south of the border. We don't really need Nacho anymore. But you know, Gus wants to keep him. Gus essentially relates him to a dog, in that if you have a dog that's bitten all of its previous owners, it's better to either keep it close and watch it or put it down. And you know, Mike straight up says, like, look, I know you got a gun to his dad's head, and that doesn't sit right with me. So we got to figure this out. Violence is not the only answer. So again, Mike and Gus are getting put at odds here. You know, I'm not sure if anything else is going to kind of stand between, you know, their alliance, or their agreement, I should say. Because I would hope Gus doesn't see Mike like that. But perhaps that's sparking something in Mike's head, like, oh, dang. Does he think this way about me? Well, you know, we do see him in Breaking Bad, so obviously not. Gus holds him to a little higher standard, but it doesn't mean he's not expendable. I mean, look what he did to Victor in Breaking Bad. Razor blade. So we got Kim and Saul in the morning again, next day. This is when Saul is really having those traumatic flashbacks when she's making juice. She's staying home today to kind of take care of him, and you know, because, you know, it also kind of rattled her a little bit too. She thought he died, so she's really trying to take care of him at this moment. And he's just kind of like wanting her out of there. He needs time to process on his own. He can't really talk to her about what happened, right? Because he's trying to hide it from her. The thing is, she totally knows something else happened. She saw the bullet hole. And they do a great job too of opening the scene by starting with the coffee brewing, right? Which is just great. But he can't handle it. She's already knows something's up, obviously, and he keeps talking about how he can't keep anything down. And then he has the moment where he freaks out and throws a cereal bowl on the ground, and you know, has a moment. And you know, it's really hard on Saul here, but Kim just kind of lets it go. Shows their day continuing on. To the point where Saul's phone's ringing. He's like, look, I gotta go. I have these clients now. I wasn't gonna stay, but he really needs me. And she's like, look, I know something happened out there. You know, you can just tell me, no judgment. She didn't mention the bullet hole yet. And he just admits to drinking his own pee, and that's, you know, pretty much leaves it at that. But remember, because the story he's really sticking to. So much so that he's even able to manipulate it and keep telling it different ways. Keep it fresh, you know? We then get Kim back at work because, well, if Jimmy's going, she needs to get back too. She was just calling in sick, but she's back. But as she's there and things are kind of settling in, because she had a lot on her mind too. She thought Jimmy was dead, like I said. And you know, it kind of makes her realize what she really wants to do. She loves doing the pro bono stuff, and it really makes her happy helping people out and not, you know, working for a big bank, essentially. Yeah, it brings in the bills, but she's not really her there, you know? So, guess what? She quits. Zwicker and Coakley, yeah, she was a partner there and everything, and she quits to just do her pro bono work, so much so that she even drops Mesa Verde, because that was her client. pretty wild, but she's having a change of heart. And man, oh man, does she really get wild this episode. Like I said, Rhea Seehorn, hands off to you. We then get Nacho visiting Hector before he's got to go back to Mexico, letting him know that everything's going to be cool, that Tuco's out of jail in 11 months, so he'll be back. Hopefully he doesn't get on the drugs again, but everything should be cool. Family is all that matters, right? Though when he's walking out, he's leaving Hector, to a old person birthday party, so he's feeling pretty guilty there, but he's got to go, right? They're on him. So he jumps in the car with Nacho, and off they go, off to the well where Saul met the cousins, right? But then we get Saul back, downtown working, but still everything on his mind. He ends up losing the case to Oakley, Chippy himself, and he just is not gonna let him down. But Saul is just not there, man. He's not, and of course Oakley's just ecstatic about that. But it's on Saul's mind so much that he calls the only person that he can really talk to about it, and well, Mike comes and picks him up, and they have a little chat. Essentially, Saul just wants to know, like, hey man, when is this gonna be over? When is this feeling gonna be over? Because I can't take it anymore, man. I want to get back to the way things are. I want to get back to myself. And Mike's essentially like, it's different for other people. And, it could take time. And so I was just like, but what about me? How's it gonna help me, man? And Mike's like, look, we all make choices, right? And these choices put us on a road. And sometimes we might get back off that road, but choices will put us back on a certain road. And it might be that same bad road. And if you keep making them, even if they're little, they're going to keep you going forward on it. And of course, that's not what Saul's looking for. And he's just like, look, there's 7 billion people on the planet, and you got to be the only person I'm stuck with the only person that I can talk to, and it's you, right? So he's just over it, essentially. Gets out of the car. Mike, of course, doesn't give a crap and pieces out. Saul's left hanging once again and still stuck with all this trauma. So we get Lalo and Nacho out in the desert at the well waiting for the cousins. Nacho's pretty much like, yo, I gotta go. You're cool out here? Because in his head, he really does gotta go. He doesn't want to get caught up in any bullshit. He's trying to be done, be out. He wants his dad out. He wants out. Let's do this. And Lalo's of course like, yeah, just go, man. We're cool. And as Nacho's pulling away, I was like, wait. I remember something. He's like, go about 6-7 miles up north. Let's go look for something real quick. And of course, they're going to look for Saul's car. So as they're going, they finally stop and see some tracks. He sees that the Suzuki's pushed off a cliff. He jumps off said cliff onto the Suzuki, finds bullet holes in it. And at this point, he has all the reason he needs to drive back into town, because he's got some questions to ask, right? There's some splaining that has to be done. And this is when we get Kim coming home after her day of pro bono work. She wakes Jimmy up as he's just crashed out pretty early. It's only like 6:30 at night. And he's up now. He's up. No worries, Kim. And then they're talking about the day, and he's kind of like, well, what's going on? You kind of seem like you went through something today. And she's like, it kind of was actually a good day. He's like, well, tell me what's up. Good news? She's like, I quit, and gives him the whole spiel. I left, not only the partnership, but also I dropped Mesa Verde. I'm just doing this pro bono stuff. And this is where it's kind of weird, because Saul is just like, well, what the hell? He's like, this is not good. And he's being a hypocrite here, because, shit, not only did he change his name to Saul and she was on board with it, but he also did all this cartel stuff, dragged her into it, and was on board with it. But at this point, the relationship is so toxic for each other. It's like they work so well, but all they do is they keep spinning and spinning and spinning until it makes this giant, vortex of destruction for both their lives. And she's basically like, look, it's none of your business, man. If I want to do this, this is what I want to do. You don't have to worry about the money. We'll figure something out. You know, you can't come at me like this because of what you've been doing, right? We're totally, you know, this is why we got married, so we can be honest with each other. And as soon as all this is happening and as this is escalating, Jimmy's phone keeps ringing, right? And, you know, Saul's just like, God damn it. And he keeps, you know, putting it in his pocket. He even gives Kim the Mike speech about the Bad Choice Road, hence the name of the episode. And totally just like half-ass explains it, but he's like, look, there's choices and we all make these choices and it puts you on a bad road. You're going down the Bad Choice Road. And he's freaking out and having a Saul moment, and she's just like, what are you even talking about? And his phone keeps ringing and it's so chaotic. And then boom, 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 you get a knock at the door. And right when she goes to answer the door, he answers the phone like, what, man, what? And it's Mike, and he's like, look, you need to keep your phone open, put it down somewhere so I can hear what's going on, and just answer the door. And we're like, oh no, it's totally Lalo, right? And it is. With his evil shit-eating grin at the door, steps in, has a gun in his pocket, kind of walks in like he owns the place, like he always does. He's tapping on the aquarium. You know, Jimmy's just kind of like, hey, you want a beer or something? He goes and sits down and makes himself at home, and it's like, I just want to know what happened. Tell me the story once again. So Jimmy begins telling the story once again. The same story as how he went out there, picked up the money from the cousins, car broke down, he began to walk, was out in the desert for a whole night, and part of the next day made it to the gas station, got serviced, called a cab, and came back. And well, this is when it gets more and more intense, because of course Kim's already freaked out. She sees the gun in his pants. He's asking Jimmy to tell the story again, and this is where I was mentioning earlier, like, Jimmy's got it down. He's got the story down so well that he can tell it any way he wants and add new stuff and improvise right on the spot, because, you know, that's how he does. That's how he do. And he does it so well, there's really no hole in the story. But since Lalo found the car, he knows something is up. You know, he even says, look, I can say the story, ask him to tell me the story as much as I want. That's a pretty hefty price, you know, for what he did. And Kim tries to speak up at one point. Lalo kind of hushes her, and which I'm sure is just firing Kim up. But they're both so freaking scared too. They don't know what's gonna go on. Jimmy especially, or Saul, is really freaking scared at this point. And he continues to tell the story. He's like, "Look, man, I don't really know what you want me to say at this point. This is what happened, right?" And we even get an angle of Mike having essentially a scope, a target, the sights on Lalo, ready to pull the trigger at the moment's notice. Obviously, Kim and Jimmy don't know that. But right before Saul's about to tell the story again, because Lalo's totally not buying it. He saw the car and the bullet holes. Kim's like, look, you know, she totally puts him in place, and it's like, what are you doing, Kim? But she is such a badass. She's like, look, man, some bullet holes. You know, anybody could have came out there and shot that shitty little car like it was some tin can and took target practice, rolled it off the cliff. You know, people do it all the time out here. It's like, what's the problem? You're gonna get all bent up about that? He's not, you know, lying to you. You know, obviously you had nobody else you could trust. You can't obviously trust your men if they can't even get money for you and bring it up. You had to get Saul Goodman out of all people to trust. And she's totally playing it so well and totally up in his face and totally putting him in his place. And I think he's really respecting it. So much so that you don't know what the next move is going to be. And he just walks out, right? I mean, she even gives us some ideas. Like, you could be doing this or doing this. Or, I mean, have you heard of this even? And he walks out, gets in the car with Nacho. And is just like, all right, man, let's go to Mexico. And he's like, same place? He's like, nope, change of plans. We got a long drive ahead of us. So it looks like we're going to be getting some pretty interesting things with Nacho and Lalo. Perhaps even the answer to what happens to them later in the series. Because obviously in Breaking Bad, at least in Saul's eyes, they're not dead. They're just out there somewhere. And he's been waiting for their return and their inevitable return, right? But next week, we do in fact get to see some scenes out in deep Mexico with Lalo and Nacho. Whether this is the end for them or not, who knows? But even Kim's scared out of her wits, as she seems rather paranoid this episode. And a lot is all coming to a head in the finale next week of Better Call Saul Season 5. So I'll see you guys then, and you guys enjoy the enjoyment. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know down below what you thought. Give me a like, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and we'll continue on this journey together with Better Call Saul. Take it easy, guys. Peace.